Hi, I'm Rikki. I'm the chef at Black Dog Tavern, downtown Kingston. Happy holidays, first of all. Today we'll be doing a charcuterie board lesson, I guess you could call it. What I always say about charcuteries is that there's never two of the same, so don't stress. Like, you don't have to go online and look at a picture and study it and memorize it. It's totally your choice on how you want to place things, how big you want it to be. It could be a charcuterie for 1, 2, 5 people, 6 people. So I have 2 separate charcuterie boards here. I'll make 2 a little bit differently. All of our meats and cheeses were supplied by Creel and Granville. They're a local company, locally made. A lot of the cheese is made in St. Mary's, Ontario. Or I have some cheese from Back 40, which is made in Mississippi Station, Ontario. So everything's really good, sourced really well, and I'm really excited to snack on it tonight. Okay, so first off, you want to start off with your bigger items on the board, and then you can fit everything small in between. So let's start with the cheese. So over here we have Madawaska. This is a soft sheep's cheese. It's unpasteurized, so it's kind of gonna taste like a brie if you've ever had brie before. You can eat the rind, it's all natural. These 2 are going to be your, this is a white wine aged semi-soft, semi-hard cow's milk cheese. And then here's the red wine. We have a Wildwood cow's milk. This one is called Amazing Grey, and it's goat's milk. It's similar to a goat's cheese, but it's hard. And then this is kind of my favorite. It's an Aberon, is from Quebec. It's made by an artisan cheesemaker, and he actually wraps it in spruce bark when he ages it. So you'll get like some spruce flavors in there, and you can actually eat that bark, which is pretty cool. So every cheese is kind of cut differently. I get a little bit stressed out about cutting cheese because I can never remember. So don't worry, it's all gonna taste the same. So we can start with our Madawaska. That's gonna be our softest cheese. So rule of thumb, like, you always want a sharp knife. Yeah, so you can sharpen your knife at home, or you can get cheese knives as well. It's totally up to you. Or you know what, if you just have a butter knife, just use a butter knife, it's all good. So you want it nice and chunky. Like, I don't want to maybe put this whole thing on the board because you want to spread it out and put it in different places. So we can start by cutting it like this. And you can see on the inside it's really soft around, and then in the center it's a bit harder, which is a really nice texture. So I'm just going to cut wedges. Then you can lay them differently on your board. I'm into different kinds of shapes, so you'll see me cut tonight in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And there, that's our first placement, all good. And then we'll go to our Wildwood cheese. And I'm actually gonna cut this in 2. And with all the rinds, with this rind, it's edible, but let's say with the red wine, it's an artificial rind, so you actually wanna take that right off. It wouldn't be so good to eat it. Yeah, then you can just throw that out. Okay, so let's see here. Put that one there. And then the rind's really pretty on this one, so I might just keep that up, right? There. Then we have our red wine. And then what are we gonna do for this? Maybe cut it into 3. We'll see what that looks like. Board is going to quickly run out of space, but I think that's really cool to have a really, really full charcuterie board. There we go. And yeah, and you know, if you don't have a lot of stuff at home, like you just don't want to go out and get a lot of stuff, you can always kind of build it up with other things. Like, you can see what I have on the table. We'll get to that later, but you can get some like veggies and like build it up with that, and you're not, you know, going out and spending a bunch of money on cheeses, because sometimes it is really expensive. And yeah, you can just bulk it up in other ways. And if you're a vegetarian, you can make a vegetarian charcuterie board. Okay, so next, the white wine, same thing. Take your rind off, you don't want to eat that. I'm gonna cut it just in two. We're gonna save one over here because I'm running out of space already. There we go, maybe like this. And then I'm gonna use the abaron. And we'll see what it looks like in the middle. It's gonna be very soft. There we go. Oh, look at that, that's so nice. You can just spread this right on a cracker. You can get bread, whatever you want. So good, it's almost like, it looks like an icing. That's awesome, cheese icing. There, cool. Okay, let's get into some of these meats. Okay, my favorite in the entire world is the Duck Prosciutto. So you can kind of think of it, it's made the same way as an Italian prosciutto. It's made in Ontario from duck breast. They're free range, they're fed a great diet, and they taste really good. So you want to get into that. So, you know, you want to keep all of your charcuterie meats in the fridge just for safekeeping, but you know, charcuterie was started thousands of years ago. It's the way of preserving meat, so they're all salt cured and everything like that. So technically, you know, they're not going to go bad and they're going to last through the harsh winter, and that's why they started preserving meat. But let's just say for now, let's keep it in the fridge and let's all be safe. Here, I'm just going to clean off my knife. It still has a bunch of cheese on it. Okay. So the duck prosciutto. So it still has the duck skin on it. You can see underneath, you can even see some of the cure in it. It's super nice, and it's literally melting in my hands. So that's one other thing with a charcuterie. You're gonna get a lot of richness, a lot of saltiness, and that's why you can see on the table, which we'll get to, is like all of the acidity that I have on the table, like pickled green beans and pickles. We have some fruit that's acidic and things like that, and then you can see my red wine. That's nice to have as well. Okay, so with the prosciutto, because it's so fatty and so salty, you want to try to cut it as thin as possible. Typically in restaurants, when we're dealing with charcuterie meats, we use a slicer. I don't expect anyone at home to have one of these, nor should you go out and get one. A knife is completely fine, just take your time. Mind your fingers, of course, and sometimes a really good trick is the colder the meat, the easier it's going to slice. So even if you pop it into the freezer for like 10-15 minutes, it's going to slice that much easier and save you a lot of hassle. Right now my meats are like a little bit warm, but that's okay, we'll just work with it. So you want to try not to saw through meat too much, it's going to like get it a bit flaky. So like one swift motion would be your best bet. So we'll start from your tip, and then just try to get it as thin as possible. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna have to try one. Just, you know, quality control and everything. Oh, it's super nice. So yeah, even the way that I sliced it here might even be a bit too thick. See, I sliced it a bit too thick, so okay, let's try again. It's a little bit chewy when it's too thick. So you almost want it paper thin. And this would be great on a cracker by itself, especially if you had some a little bit of an acidic jam. That would be so nice. Okay, so now how are we gonna line this up? Like maybe we can fan it out. I think that would be cool. Let's do it maybe right here. And then do something else maybe. Look at this fat running through, it's so beautiful. Line it up like this. It's right on the board. See, we're just figuring out as we go. Nothing's glued to the board, right? So you can always move everything after if you don't like it. There you go. Maybe a couple more pieces, just because I want another snap. Do that. Now we'll put that aside, and again, just wipe off the knife. Put that fat to the side. There you go. Give your board a little wipe. It's okay to just keep going on it because we're just using meat right now. So, what should we use next? Lots of good stuff here. Okay, yes, the pepper salami. This is a really traditional kind of European charcuterie. The pepper, it's not really spicy at all. It's going to be a mild flavor, but it's a really nice crunch on the outside. And with this, you definitely don't want to take all that pepper off. So when you cut into it, just be really careful not to slice all the good flavor out of there. So you're just going to try to go like that, a little incision. Oh, there you go. Get that sticker off. Maybe I should have brought scissors. No, there we go. So this one is very nice and hard. And personally, I like a salami cut a little bit thicker. It has a really nice texture to it. It is a bit chewy, but I kind of like that in a salami. So it's easy to tell the way to cut shapes in charcuterie meats, because they're usually kind of laid out for you. Like, you wouldn't want to start cutting like this, you know, it shows you, okay, I'm gonna cut wagon wheels, right? So maybe like about a 1/4 inch, something like this would be nice. So I can smell the pepper already every time I cut it. It's super nice. There you go. So let's take maybe half of this and cut it in half and line this one up. Where are we gonna put that? Maybe let's put it right against the cheese here. That. And then what are we gonna do with this? Maybe it will stand up. No, a couple will stand up. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, and there's your second one. And put that aside. See, it's very obvious to tell already. You definitely don't need all this stuff when you make a charcuterie. You know, don't go too crazy. I mean, if you want to eat charcuterie for a week, then maybe, you know, go for it. But so this one is the blue cheese saucisson. So saucisson is, I keep saying everything is my favorite. It is, let's be honest. Saucisson is really cool. I spent a bit of time in France, and my most favorite thing was going into the pubs, and saucisson would be aging over the bar, and you know, you get your pint and get to pick out your sausage, and they bring it to your table just on a cutting board, and you could cut it up yourself. And it was a really nice, the acidity hit, and then the really like saltiness of the saucisson, like that's a really good combination. So this is a blue cheese. You can definitely taste the blue cheese coming out in it. So if you're not a blue cheese fan, I would stay away from a blue cheese saucisson. So they're really nice. They're in natural casing, so you can eat the casing. You don't have to worry about that. They're aged for about 21 days. And they're packed pretty tightly into their casing, so you can see how glossy it is and how tightly packed the fat is, and the distribution of it. It's really nice. So I would definitely recommend having some saucisson on your charcuterie board. Sometimes it's hard to find it because primarily it's made in France, but you can get some locally here. There's a couple people that make it, and also in Quebec. So you want to maybe cut it on a bit of a bias, like this. this. Now you could get really ambitious and try a crack at making your own charcuterie. That would be a fun project. I've never tried that, but I think, you know, it's definitely a skill of the ages to learn. So we're gonna put that aside now. You can always come back to it. Calabrese salami. So this is pork. Everything that you see on here right now, except for the duck, is pork. A lot of charcuterie meats come from Italy, this one in particular, and they raised a lot of pork and then had to store a lot of their pork through the winter. How would I do this? Well, they would salt cure it and it would last through the winter. The Calabrese is pretty cool because they make the sausage, they stuff everything into the casing, and then they flatten it, and that's where you get this flat look. Like it would be a sausage like this, but they press it in the curing process. So again, you want to cut it widthwise, and again you can see how the fat has been pressed inside. That's really nice. So this one you want to go a bit thinner. So we're trying to get, not paper thin, you don't have to worry about that too much, but this is quite nice because it does become really quite chewy. And most of these charcuterie meats will be cured for 21 days. Seems to be the key. So just take your time, nice and slow. And you can even cut this one a bit more on a bias, which means a bit more of an angle, but it's nice as well. So maybe let's stack this one. We're gonna pretend it's two charcuteries. We'll stack that one there. I'm gonna cut a few more for the other board. While you're doing this, usually when I make charcuteries, when I'm entertaining people, you know, I'll make it, spend maybe, shouldn't take more than, let's say, 30 minutes to make a board, and I'll be full by the end of it. So, you know, you'll definitely eat your charcuterie before your guests arrive or your family comes home. You can tell them how good it is, and then they can try it. Snacking is good. And don't worry too much if you get a break like this, that's totally fine. So let's put that there. Let's line a couple more against the cheese. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna put that aside. All right. What on to next? We have another salami. It's Casalinga. This is a pretty famous salami. In Italy, every household usually has their own recipe. There usually aren't recipes written down. It's passed orally to household, family to family. And you know, every Casalinga salami that you try might be a little bit different. Again, this one has been made by Gambrel in Ontario. So, you know, we're still pulling on the traditional European, Italian making of it, but it does have a bit of Canadian flair because they're using 100% Canadian pork. So I'm really struggling to get into it. That's sometimes the hardest part of it, is taking off all of the wrapping. So you'll see this one has been cured with rope. So that is butcher's twine, and you definitely don't want to eat that. So you want to take that off. You want to cut it off so it's all twined up. And again, this casing is 100% edible. Typically, you'll know a casing isn't edible if it feels very like plastic, and it comes off very easily. So if you're going to say to your local butcher, or even if you're going to a deli in a grocery store, they could they could easily tell you if the casing is edible or not, so don't worry too much about that. Just don't be afraid to ask, and you know, just, yeah. So the same thing, we want to cut it really thin. It's really, really fatty. So biting into a big chunk of that might not be the most pleasant experience. There you go. And this is a very mild sausage. Everything that we have on the table right now is fairly mild, nothing too spicy. You can definitely find charcuterie meats that will be more spicy, and I would definitely recommend going to your local butcher, or there's the grocery basket in Kingston supplies a lot of charcuterie meats, and they're always more than happy to answer questions. There you go. So, are we gonna go with this? Maybe I can put it along the outside. Soon get to the most colorful part. That's the only where fruits and veggies. This is great to, you know, great way to have like a social snack before a big meal. You know, it always brings people around the table. That's something that I love about cooking, is I don't so much love cooking like in the kitchen alone. I like when, you know, you have a bit of family or just one person to keep you company. You can share the experience with them. And I think that's something so valuable right now. So, let's get some more. Put that one right here. There you go. I'm gonna eat that one. Here. And we have more saucisson. I might just get into the 5-pepper saucisson. This one, not so much spicy, but it does definitely feel the peppers in your mouth a little bit. So, I don't know, if you're really not a fan so much of spice, then maybe not. I would stay away from a 5-pepper saucisson, but honestly, it's pretty nice feel. So again, with this one, we're gonna try to cut it on a really long bias. So what you wanna do is obviously keep your fingers out of the way, use them as a guide for your knife, and we're gonna go forward. And you can see the peppercorns inside of the saucisson. It's so nice. It probably smells super nice. The amazing thing about charcuteries is you can get so many different flavors on one board, and you know, it's nice not to have everything matching, just like, you know, sometimes you don't want to wear matching socks. Like, you don't need a matching charcuterie board all the time. Okay, so let's do that. Ram it up. There we go. We have 2 more, so let's do that. There we go. So put that one over there. Okay, let's get to some of the pickly things and the vegetables. So you can definitely, so I have some heirloom carrots here, also known as rainbow carrots. This is something you'll probably be able to find all year round at the farmer's market, so it's kind of nice to use things like this. To the side here, which we'll put on later, I have a herb and garlic schmear that the grocery basket in Kingston actually makes, and it's really, really nice. It's like cream cheese and herbs, and I like to dip carrots into it. So yeah, just like keep in mind that, you know, it's this time of year, especially right now, it's nice to support the local farmers, and they have like root vegetables all year round, and they're pretty darn tasty. So there you go. So we just want to peel it. I love the purple heirloom. It brings a lot of color to the charcuterie. like warm winter colors. Okay, we'll peel that, put that aside there. Do a red one. Cool. And then we'll do a yellow one, peel a yellow one. So, then we have lots of color, because right now it's pretty two-dimensional. It's like creamy and red. So let's get some pops of color in there. You can basically pickle whenever you want. So if you say, no, I only want pickled things and no fresh vegetables, you could pickle carrots. Pickled carrots are pretty good. Basically when you're pickling, so for example, I have beside here my green beans. We pickle these in-house at Black Dog Tavern. They're actually a cold pickle. So what is it? It's garlic, chili, coriander seed, and sugar, and just white vinegar. It's really, really simple. And you just pickle them. You put all of that in a bucket in the fridge with your green beans for just 24 hours. And you have a really nice pickle. It's not too strong. And it keeps the crunch on your vegetables, and that's something that I really, really like. Especially on a charcuterie board, because you're eating like a lot of soft things. It's sometimes nice to get a bit of crunchiness in there. Yeah, so we'll just cut these up. You can cut them however you'd like. I'm just doing them lengthwise, so then you can maybe set them in different places. I'm gonna cut the tips off. Yeah, I just cut the little stem off there. Just be careful when you're doing this. Sometimes the carrots like to roll on you. You can see this beautiful heirloom carrot. It's yellow on the inside and red on the outside. There you go. And maybe let's cut this one on a bias, just like that, just because. The purple carrot. One thing to note though with these purple carrots, which I feel like everyone learns the hard way, is when you cook them, they're not so purple anymore. So yeah, it's nice to keep them raw, and they keep this really dark color. It's really beautiful purple dark color, and they will stain your hands a little bit. That's okay, they're kind of like beets in that way, right? Okay, so where are we going to put these? So I stick them up a little bit. Like I said, we can do whatever we like. Just at the end, we want it nice and full, right? So I always tell people I work with, you know, you don't have to put so many things. It's kind of where you place them and how you place them. So maybe up like this. Just like that. Wipe off your hands because there's definitely going to be purple on them. And then let's get to some fruit here. So I brought a couple figs. Figs are really nice, especially in the winter. Yeah, so beautiful on the inside. And figs, you could make a chutney with them. You could scoop all of this out and cook it. You can scoop it out and put it on a cracker. That's really nice, or you could just straight up eat it. They're so sweet, and I think the texture in them is beautiful. Put some figs, a few right there. I'm knocking everything over. Like that. Okay. Orange in winter is really amazing that we can get them, eh? Yeah, it brings a nice acidity to your charcuterie board and also a lot of really nice color. You can do whatever you like with the orange. Maybe for this one, let's cut it in half. And we can see the inside of it. It's so gorgeous. And then if you want to get it to sit up straight, because it's a bit like rolling right now, you can cut a bit of that off, and then there you go. So it'll sit flat. And even if you wanted to, when you're eating some of the charcuterie, you could put everything on a cracker with some cheese and meat and then just squeeze this over top of it. And I think that would be pretty good on the fattier of the charcuterie. Let's see what we can do with this one. So we're gonna cut that in half, in quarters. There we go. We don't want to hide too much, but you know, that sometimes ends up happening. There we go. We're going to just put these aside. I'll snack on them later. Use a bit of plum. With the plum, if you want to decor it, see how I'm rolling on where the kind of indent is. Just do this with your knife. Don't press too hard. You don't want to break your knife or whatever. And you just go all the way through, and then you open it up like this. And sometimes they come out easily, but I don't think that one's going to. So I'll show you in a minute. So let's do some wedges here of plum. And then for this one, you want to flip it down on the core side, and you can just lightly go over it and peel that off, and then you can get at the core like that. There you go. And then the core is out. Okay, so we're gonna keep those big. This. Put those aside. Okay, now for our pickly things. So the pickled beans. Now, like I said, these are quite crunchy. Oh, so super nice. Let's grab a few of those out. You can really taste the garlic on it. Oh yeah, if you just want to chop some garlic, chop some chili in there, throw vinegar over them, and a bit of salt and maybe some coriander seed. Like, it's that easy, right? So you can make pickled vegetables at home. You could do the same with cucumbers. You can do warm picklings. You can boil some of the vinegar and the spices that you want inside, and then pour it over, let it cool down, and then put it in the fridge. And that will make the vegetable a little bit softer. So if you're not a fan of crunchy vegetables, that would be the way to go. Oh, there you go. Let's put some on the other one. Next, we can use these tiny pickles. They're called Cornichons or gherkins. They're a bit more sweet than I'd say a dill pickle. But they still have that garlicky aspect to them. I don't really like a super sweet pickle. And they're pickled with like a bit of onion and mustard seed, so you definitely get those flavors out in it, so it's really nice. Pickles on a charcuterie are definitely key, and I like the gherkins because they're so small that you can put them entirely on a cracker with your cheese and have it in one bite. So a one bite pickle, there you go. And it's usually a good idea to spread, put your everything in a different spot. You know, I have some duck here, and pickles here and pickles there, because you know, you always have that one person that really likes one thing. So it's a good idea to spread it out so you can each have a little bit, right? And someone's not stealing all of the pickles or something like that. There you go. So just filling spots, it's, you know, you see a gap, you put something there. That's the point of it, is to look a bit messy, and it all comes together at the end. Okay. Now, some strawberries here. Some pops of red. And then, okay, so I might use the smaller knife for that. We can cut these all sorts of ways, the strawberries. First way is I'm gonna fan them out. Okay. Here, fan that out. This one, let's do quarters and keep the green on it. You can put them different ways. That. And then with this one, we can just cut the bottom off. Yeah. And then maybe put it like that. Cool. So yeah, fruits and vegetables you can cut in all different shapes and sizes. And there's no right way or wrong way to cut them. So that's okay. Next we have some olives. Oh, I'm running out of space here. It's not a bad thing to run out of space on a charcuterie. You can get charcuterie boards in different shapes, and you can get, I'm sure you can find one as big as this table. You could use this table as a charcuterie board. There's no rule that it has to be a board, right? I mean, if you had an island at home, you could maybe even turn that into a charcuterie table, which I think would be cool. You know, I've made charcuterie boards out of like driftwood that I found like walking on the beach, and you can just seal it up, and yeah, like really just, you have a board and I'll just use it. There you go. Just fill in all of these gaps with the olives. These olives aren't pitted. You know, it's totally preference, whether you want pitted olives or not. Some people prefer them. I don't know, I kind of like the pit. That's a me thing. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you'll see charcuteries with, like I have ramekins over here, and the olives are in the ramekins, and you know, I kind of like to do everything on the board. But if you prefer your food not touching, which I completely understand, then a ramekin would be a great idea. There we go. Okay, let's set that aside. I'm making a mess here. That's okay. Okay, what's next? So I have some rhubarb and fig jam. You always want a little bit of jam or chutney or something on your charcuterie board. This will again help cut the really fatty, the fattiness of the meats and help to balance out your palate a little bit. Right now I don't have space to put it on the charcuterie board, so we're just gonna keep it to the side. I also have some grainy mustard. I am a huge mustard fan. Like, I used to eat mustard sandwiches. That's kind of gross, but I love mustard on everything, like vegetables, definitely with a charcuterie, again, to cut the acid, to cut the fats in your meats. Like, it's just so salty sometimes, and you need that little spread on your cracker. So while we're talking about crackers, so I have two kinds of crackers here. I have like a cranberry and almond crostini. It's like a little bit thicker. And then I also have a olive oil sourdough cracker. I mean, there's so many crackers to choose from. Like, if you're a Ritz cracker fan, go for the Ritz crackers. They're so good. You can also like buy an entire baguette and cut up the baguette, then bake that and make crostinis, right? You can make this from a baguette. Or you can buy fresh bread, like go to your local bakery and like get a really nice loaf of sourdough or something like this. You know, whatever you want. Today I just have these. So let's see if we can even make it fit. So yeah, so you know, again, do whatever your preference of flavor is, just go for it. Maybe you're not a cracker fan, get bread. It's totally your choice. Okay, I'm gonna stick that underneath that. Maybe we can stick one in the cheese. That's the great thing about soft cheeses. You can stick crackers inside of them, okay? Over here I have a Nikita is a local company in Kingston. They make really, really good chutneys. I like their mango chutney. Again, I usually find this at the grocery basket. Yeah, so, you know, like I said, a chutney, a jam, you can make it at home. Maybe you have a raspberry jam kicking around. Like, you can definitely use that. So yeah, so we'll just open that up here. And then usually a nice finishing final touch could be a pear. We can do that. You can use apples, you can use pears. If you want to cut the core out, be careful doing this, just like that. So sometimes I like to keep it like this. Cut the core out. And then what you can do is put a little chutney inside of there, and then meat and cheese, and then that could be your cracker. So just stick it in there. Cool. I said, okay, and then here we have some herbs because, I mean, at Christmas, you can use, like, you can go out and maybe you have like a spruce tree or pine tree in the backyard, and you can put, like, get off a couple little sprigs of that, or you can use rosemary. I just really like the smell of rosemary and the way that it looks on a charcuterie, but spruce would do the same. So where is that gonna go? Put it here. Okay, so on a charcuterie, we have our meat, we have our cheese, we have our acid, so that would be fruit, pickles, pickled vegetables, mustards. You could do a bit more of a bitter jam or a chutney, something like this. Olives. You could make a vegetarian board. You could turn this completely vegetarian and just do fruits or veggies and cheese. And I guess, like, you know, we've even seen like candy charcuterie boards. So, and if you're a big fan of candy and just want to do a candy spread, and go for it. Obviously, based on my charcuterie boards, there are no rules in making them. Just cut how you want. I mean, if you're having more guests over, I'd suggest keeping the cheeses a little bit bigger, and then that way we can use cheese knives and scoop into them. I have my cheese knives somewhere. So yeah, that way I can, you know, a few people can have that bite and things like that. So yeah, that's basically how it goes with charcuteries. I hope you guys had a great time following along, and yeah, have a happy holidays.